Hello, everyone. Grace and shalom to you wherever you are. It's always a blessing to come into your life, to come into your home, or wherever you are listening to this, and to bring the thoughts of God, grace thoughts to you. Uh, Today, we're going to be talking about faith without works. It's a very exciting topic for many believers for different reasons. It's also an exciting topic for me. And today I want to just go into it. And many of the people who preach about this base their preaching on James chapter 2, verses 14 to 26. And I'm just going to pick out two verses from there. We read it and then we just delve into it to see the different things that I believe the Holy Spirit wants us to reflect on in that writing of James. And I'll pick verse 17 and verses 17 to 19. It says, "So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But someone will say, 'You have faith, and I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works.' You believe that God is one. You do well. Even the demons believe and shudder." So this has presented a lot of problems in Christianity for a very long time. And you have your view, but I want you to research this further and think about it a little bit more. And because this idea, this idea of faith without works is actually a creation of certain church people who desire and want to judge other people. Anyone who does not have an intention to judge and to condemn does not care about faith without works. And I'm going to tell you why. It's a creation of religion because the idea of faith without works is like the Yeti. It's like Bigfoot. I don't know if those who are maybe in the Western world know about Bigfoot. There are documentaries about Bigfoot. Everybody talks about Bigfoot, but nobody has ever seen Bigfoot. Basically, everything is claims and claims and claims. There is no, it cannot be substantiated. For those a little bit, maybe Nigerians, maybe Ghanaians, and those, number of Africans, there is this idea of what we used to call as kids, Madam Koi Koi. Like everybody talks about this woman that walks in the corridors and the heels. She has high heels and walks and makes noise and is frightening, and everybody's afraid of this so-called Madam. But nobody has ever seen this Madam Koi Koi, whether she's tall or short. It's a creation of the imagination, basically. So this idea of faith without works is also a creation of imagination. It doesn't exist anywhere. Nobody has ever seen anybody who has faith and has no works. It's just a claim, and this claim makes its way into the Bible, and all of a sudden people are talking about faith without works. And there are all these arguments about there are the works of the law, and then there are the works of love, or the works of faith, or the other works. And basically when they do this, what they do is they are judging particular works. Someone wants to see you doing a particular work and you're not doing it, and they start claiming all of a sudden that you have faith without works. But the truth is, you are doing other works. Maybe they expect you to be given to the poor, but you are giving offering in the church, and the church gives to the poor. You are giving to the poor. Maybe you're loving your husband because of your faith, inspired by your faith, moved by the fire of your faith. You're loving your husband, but you're not They don't see you loving your neighbor and they say you have faith but you don't have works. But basically what they are judging is a particular work that they expect to see in you. So they put a lot of pressure on believers, unnecessary pressure, and that's one of the things that grace wants to remove. By right teaching, grace removes that unnecessary pressure of condemnation, of self-condemnation and other people condemnation. There is absolutely no proof that Jesus was worried about faith without works. Do your research. You will not find Jesus worried about faith without works. And there's a reason for that. Each time Jesus speaks about doing, the word doing, when he uses the word doing the Father's will, he's always talking about believing in the one that the Father has sent, that is himself. He said, this is the work that I need you to do is to believe in the one that God has sent. When people ask him, what works should we be doing? He said, believe. And there's a reason why he didn't begin to outline works for them. He just told them, believe. Because you see, faith is like a fire. If you touch the fire, you will get burnt. It's automatic. And one thing Jesus was actually worried about is whether he will find faith when he returns. He never says, will I find faith and works? Or will I find works? He says, will I find faith when I return? Will there be faith? Because he knows if people believe in this and have this living faith, everything that is living is acting. That is how you know that something is living. Faith is a living thing and is an active thing. Let's just look at those verses that we read. And we see many times people, when they want to interpret these verses of James, they begin to become fundamentalists all of a sudden. They refuse to look at the context. They refuse to look at the examples that James is given in order to get into the mind of James and know what the Holy Spirit was trying to communicate through James. And I outlined just 4 things that the Holy Spirit was trying to communicate through James. Very simple, very, very simple. The first one, the Holy Spirit is saying faith is a living thing. Faith is a living thing. So in verse 17, it says, so also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. So James is saying faith is a living thing. Faith is a living thing. And a living thing, the only way to know that a living thing is living is by its activity. That's the works you're talking about. So a living thing and its activity are interconnected. They are one. Again, James is saying this faith expresses itself through works. This faith expresses itself through works. So verse 18 says, but someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Remember, this is not James saying. James is talking about those who are claiming that it is possible to separate these two. Says someone will say. He's not saying this is the position of Christians. Christians were not the ones saying it. These were religious-minded people who are beginning to say, oh, you have faith, I have works. Or you have works and I have faith. They were trying to, and James is correcting them from a Christian perspective and say this is a wrong thing to say. It is wrong to say there can be faith without works. That's what James is basically saying. Faith, because faith expresses itself through works. Faith and works are always together. Works are the expression of faith, not particular works, but works generally, activity. So when you look at works, don't start cherry picking, supermarket spirituality, pick and choose what you think are the works. No, works here is kind of a generic name for activity, a living thing. How do you know that a living thing is living? If you see a tiger, how do you know the tiger is alive? Because it's moving, it's eating, it's doing different activity, it's acting. That's what it's saying, that faith expresses itself through works. And then the third one is that faith is not mental assent. Faith is not meant, it's not a bunch of things you believe. It's not a bunch of things you believe. For example, that God exists. And that's what he says in verse 19. He says, you believe that God is one, which is an item, a proposition. So you believe that God is one. He says, even demons believe that God is one. And he says, they believe and they shudder, which means demons don't have works, because they don't have a living faith. They don't have this faith that is living. So what they have is a mental agreement, which is not faith. So that's what he's saying, which is not faith. Otherwise, if they had faith like we have, then they will be expressing themselves this living faith in their works. It's as simple as that. So he's saying demons don't have faith. Demons believe that God exists, but demons don't have faith. Christians have faith, and therefore they act out their faith. That's what he's saying. And then finally, he's saying also faith cannot be separated from works. Verse 18b, he says, show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. By my works. So the Spirit is saying through James that faith expresses itself again in works. And faith and works. And that's why Jesus was never worried about faith without works. He was worried about getting people to believe in him, because he knows when they believe in him, they will work. Because faith is the presence of Jesus in us. You cannot have Jesus and not do nothing. It's not possible. That's why I said this is a creation of people's minds. It doesn't exist. Every single person that has faith is doing something. He may not be doing, or she may not be doing what you expect him or her to be doing. You may not see what he or she is doing, but that does not mean that he or she is not doing. Look at all the Catholics, the Protestants, all these churches that argue about faith without works. Investigate their lives. All of them are doing things, different things. If you say it is charity, you cannot find churches that are not charitable. Any church that that has faith, that has members who have faith, do works. It's automatic. You will not find anywhere. So even as they continue to argue about these things and throw mud at one another, you find out deep down, all of them, everyone is doing something. You cannot touch fire and not get burnt. You're blessed.